Hello, welcome to Sonic Talk number 419 as we approach yet another milestone, 420. There's probably got to be a microphone or something with that serial. We'll try and think about a thing we can do for that. But I want to say hello and welcome to everybody. And I'm very pleased that I managed to remember to hit record on the MP3 player just halfway through the intro ID there. So Marc Doty, who's our first guest, you'll be able to maybe pick up some tips about preparedness for a podcast, because I think you're going to be working on one at some point in the near future, at least according to your Facebook posts. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Nick? I'm glad to be back. It's been a while.
It's been
Things
ages.
have been crazy.
It has been ages, and it's a pleasure to have you. I suppose before I introduce the rest of our guests, I should probably just say thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors, iZotope. Of course, if you're a regular viewer of the show, you'll know that there is a competition involved, and so you'll find out who the winner is of last week's, and we'll also be able to find out how to enter the competition this week, because that is the way they roll. But stay tuned for that. I also want to say thank you very much to our show sponsors. Oh, no, I've already said that, haven't I? I already want to say, actually, if you're wondering what this is all about and you've never seen this before, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and it will all become clear, because Sonic Talk goes out once a week on a Wednesday at 4 p.m. UK time. You can watch it live. There's a live stream, sonicstate.com/live, and also all of our other videos go up to the same channel, so you'll be able to see the latest reviews. I'm currently working on the Modo NF1. We've got Gaz's Launchpad Pro in the bag. We've also got there's a ton of stuff coming up. Anyway, so I'll now get on to some of our other guests. We have also someone we haven't had for a little while, Mr. Ty Unwin, composer, based in his synth cave to rival Mr. Spears. I mean, look at that. We got, is that a Voyager XL and a Schmidt, a white Voyager XL and a Schmidt?
It is. Yeah.
And a mic. That looks like a blue something or other.
It is. It's a blue bottle.
Ah, blue bottle.
Yes.
You should be swatting around. Yeah, you need a fly swat. Anyway, Ty, of course, a very busy fellow, as we've heard before, and a man with a lot of synthesizers. So thank you for joining us. I hope you're not risking a deadline by taking an hour out of your busy TV composition schedule. And anyway, let's get on to Mr. Gaz Williams, who's over there in Bristol in his production garret, the attic of his premises. How are you, Gaz? You well?
Yeah, really good, thank you. So been having lots of fun with the sledge, which I did end up getting last week.
I could just see the custard yellow just to your right.
Yeah. Now, this is probably a synthesizer that would cause a lot of controversy, but I love it. And the yellowness of it just excites me no end. When I see it, the yellowness of it just
makes you feel warm.
It's a funny thing, but I mean, it's a buggy machine.
Oh dear.
This is probably something Marc would probably despise in many ways, but
your reputation precedes you, Mr. Doty. Cut to shot with Marc and a white cat, perhaps.
I went from the Roland Gaia to this fella, so I'm sort of, I'm earning my Cub Scout kind of badges.
Paying your dues.
I'm working up to something, and this is but I mean, I'm playing some really freaky psychedelic music, and I wanted something that's going to be kind of pretty cool for that sort of stuff. So, and it's absolutely nailing that job. Sounds great.
It's interesting, isn't it? There's something about, even though the engine of itself isn't all that special, there's something about the largesse of the interface and the fact that there's just this enormous amount of space between all the controls that makes it really good fun to use.
You do have to really reach at times to get, to get around it. But, I was kind of having a chuckle because, I was like looking for something that was, vintage kind of unit, one knob per function. See where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
But I've just bought it a few days earlier than the announcement.
Right, well, we'll get on to that. But Gaz, great to have you. Gaz, of course, bass player, music technologist, and many other things besides, and also now proud sledge owner. Have you called it Percy, by any chance? You really should.
Or sister.
Yeah, or sister. Yeah, no, sister. That's a good one. And that little voice there you heard was Robbie Bronnimann, who's looks like your Robbie Bronniman's currently actually producing right now, or at least taking a break out, working on an album in what looks like a fantastic sort of barn-type studio. How's that all going, Robbie?
going very well. We finished our first. We actually finished the mix of one of the tracks we've been working on yesterday, so it's a nice milestone to get one in the bag.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Excellent.
Good.
I always imagine that sort of thing when it's such a, you finish a track, but then when you finish the other 10 or whatever there's in an album, the temptation is to go back and maybe tinker with them because you might have developed the sound further on in the project. Is that a temptation?
Oh, I'm far too organised for that.
Okay. Maybe
we've got 3 on the go, and we know exactly what we're going for. So we just got to steer all the rest of it to kind of stay within the parameters we're working within. It'll be all good. Yeah.
Right. Well, excellent. Thanks very much for joining us, and to your client for giving you the time out to join us too. So, also I should say hello to the chat room. Thank you, everybody. Got a fulsome chat room, as I want to say, and there's Gaz in there as well. So all the usual culprits and many more besides. Actually, quite fulsome. Have I said that enough times already? I think I'll say it again. Anyway, so let's get on. Obviously, the big news is last week we had the teaser for this, which is obviously the Roland Boutique range. These are the sort of the clue was in the teaser, frankly, wasn't it? Jupiter 8, there it is, 1981, and then we got the JX3P, which 1983, and then I can't even remember what the next one is. The Juno 106, which I'm a proud owner, and it does sound lovely. 1984, sort of 3 classic polysynths, 2 6s and an 8 voice. I think the 3P was actually, to be honest, I don't know, was the 3P an 8 or a 6 voice?
6, I think.
They said in unison. And it also does unison voices as well. So, yeah, this is the news. The Roland Boutique stuff. Obviously, what's happened is it got leaked. Some poor soul. I'm assuming this wasn't actually a marketing wheeze. As what happens, when you've got massive organisations such as Roland or any of the mega corps, things have to be put into databases ready for sales and stuff. So some poor soul hit the wrong checkbox, I believe, in the database. I think I've got some pictures here. These are some pictures from somebody's Imager feed. So there's the JP08, which looks like a JP08 kind of layout. There are differences. You can also get these little cases for them. And there's the back end, which has got mini jacks. Then there's the JU06, which is, to all intents and purposes, the one out of all of them which is purely identical in terms of control, in terms of synthesis controls. And then you can get a little keyboard case, which is an add-on. So they come as modules or add-ons. Then we got the JX03, which is more or less the same as the original voice. And there they are. Interesting. I mean, they look lovely. They've definitely done a kind of, a nice cosmetic job on it. And there is all sorts of stuff going on, flying about, whether they should be doing this. Because I don't know how can you forget the way that the Jupiter 80 got kind of, they really got apps. This was before the change in Roland where they were able to sort of turn it around and start bringing some new things out. They got absolutely slammed for utilising those old school brands and applying things that weren't. So in what way is this different? Or if anyway, it seems more people, it seems like they're split, aren't they? We're talking, half of people are going, actually, this looks pretty cool. I'm glad they've gone for a module. This is kind of pretty interesting. And then half are saying, I'm not so sure. And I wonder who I should go to first. Marc, I know there's some interesting things going on here. I mean, obviously, any commercial organisation, car manufacturer, whatever, is perfectly entitled to, do this kind of thing. I mean, why not? You've got a powerful brand, you use it, you kind of utilise it. Is there something wrong with this, or do you think this could be actually pretty cool to get this kind of stuff in the hands of people, and then maybe people will go, but actually I want the real thing in terms of analog?
That's the thing about this. We're in this period right now where lots of analog is being produced, lots of inexpensive analog is being produced. Companies are bringing back their products from the past in analog splendor. So there's kind of a culture right now of let's re-release or whatever. So it seems weird that Roland was willing to kind of seem to jump on that bandwagon and then totally not at all jump on that bandwagon. And I think that's one of the things that is upsetting for someone like me, because I saw some sort of, when I first saw the leak, I was like, oh my gosh, is this true? Because people would really love these analog polysynths reproduced now. They would really love that. That would be a huge, fantastic thing. And I think my question is there really a need for small virtual analog polysynths in the market right now? And I'm asking that not to be a jerk, but like literally, they're not a thing that I buy. I don't really know, but it seems like the whole world is adrift with VA polysynths. Is that not true?
Yes and no, I suppose. I mean, I think I think that's a fair question to ask. I know. Let's move along the panel here and say, because Ty, you've got a lot of analog polysynths, and you've got other kinds of polysynths too. I mean, yeah, this is what's quite, because obviously this is you. I mean, perhaps I should recap before what we do know, which again, and I would like to stress, Roland have not briefed us at all. So this is all this information has come to me via the leaks and via what I've been able to look up. It's not that I am not party to any of this information, because I think that's not always the case, but I assure you in this case it's not. So, judging by the details, these are going to be using ACB technology, which is what we've got in the IRA range, probably using the same processor set and what have you, because there's a 4-voice limitation on all of these, which is kind of a little bit of a misnomer when you think it's a Jupiter 8.
There is one crucial difference, though, isn't there? That there is one difference, isn't there? And that's that the Iris things are all fixed at 96K, and these fellas aren't. These things are 44K, the internal processing. So that's the only thing that sort of has a clue to it being a different.
Yeah. Okay, maybe so. A lower resolution, perhaps, I suppose. But I mean, I don't know, Ty, does it really matter? I mean, is this something? Because I mean, you've probably got a Jupiter 8, you've probably got a JX3P. If you didn't have them, would this be something? I mean, I guess it depends on how they sound, and we can't know that yet, can we? I suppose
it is all down to how they sound, but I'm completely mixed on this one because, oh gosh, I'm one of these people, I seem to be giving Roland a hard time at the moment, and I have done for the last couple of years. But they're just one of those companies that they get really close and they keep kind of going in the right direction, and then they just get it wrong at the last minute in one way or another way or whatever. For me, this is only a personal view. And with these, I have to say, when I first saw, I thought, okay, that's a nice idea, and yeah, that could work. And then the form factor, I think the thing that you need to understand is that they are really small, and which I'm sure some people may see that as a plus point, but we're talking 12 inches, and that's for men, obviously, which is that big. No, we're talking kind of 12 inches by 6 inches. So
these faders are small, aren't they? Yeah, wow, yeah.
So the faders on the Jupiter 8 one are 2 centimeters, and on the Juno and the JX3P one they're 3 centimeters. So we're talking that is the biggest fader, and 2 centimeters is that, and mini jacks on the back. And so when I first saw them, I'm thinking, this looks like it could be useful, and especially the price, which is ridiculous. It's $399 for the 8 and $299 for the other two. And you kind of think, oh, this is quite exciting. And then when you look at the detail, you suddenly realise that, and I don't want to say it again, but yet again, Roland at the last minute have just got it wrong, in my opinion, because it's too small, and and the whole 4-voice limitation. That for me is a big worry. That's, it's a big worry for me.
Well, that price, I mean, aren't you expecting the moon on a stick a little bit? I don't know, Gaz, you were just about to come in there.
Well, it's just the difference in price is worth talking about, though, isn't it? Because the Jupiter is $299, $399, and the Juno and the JX are. Oops, sorry, that was me.
Your sledge is at the door.
Yeah.
And why is there $100 difference?
Well, there's an extra row of faders.
If it was 8, but if it was an 8-voice, because it's called the JP08 as well, which obviously, then you could understand the extra $100, couldn't you? But $100,
yeah.
I don't know.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
I
don't know. I mean, I think, in terms of the actual overall cost, it's pretty small beans, I suppose. Robbie, you haven't had your say yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of... The biggest bug I've got about it is the polyphony thing, because my experience with things like the Juno 60 or whatever, And I know this from working with Howard, who's both of those instruments, the Jupiter 8 and the Juno, are his main trademark instruments. Everyone knows he had. And all the parts that he wrote on, for instance, like the Juno 60, all the pad parts and things, all relied on the way that 6-note polyphony stole in its voice allocation. And whenever we've tried to recreate that on a resampling of Juno, we can never get it to sound right, because unless you can limit the polyphony the same way, it just doesn't work the same. And it's a bit arse about face. You buy 2 of them to get your 8-note polyphony, but it doesn't seem to be any way that you could limit it to 6 to make it genuinely like a Juno. And the other thing is that looking at the Jupiter, okay, you got to buy 2 of them to get 8-note polyphony, and some might argue it could be quite nice because you can then have discrete controls for each voice, like when instead of the split thing. But what about all the functionality on the Jupiter 8, like all the stuff to do with the mod and pitch bend, all the glide, and how you can assign those things to the filter and all that kind of thing? There doesn't seem to be any implementation for accessing any of that. So how are you going to be able to, like for like, create Jupiter 8 sounds without that stuff?
Well, and there's no portamento either.
There's no portamento, is there?
Apparently,
I can't see that. I can't see that. Again, that's such a big part of a lot of those sounds. Or for some people, anyway.
Well, I mean, I suppose I'll play devil's advocate here. I mean, because obviously we're talking $399, which is going to be round about probably £350, £300, which is, it. If you were to buy a Jupiter 8, it would be 20 times that at least.
But I think this is the point I was getting at with the price, though. Do you think the price is just to reflect the real world? That the Juno and the JX were like the budget kind of keyboards in Roland's. And they're trying to reflect it in the price. That's what I think. And I think it's a bit daft, because I think you're getting the same product, but you're paying the premium for the software mainly. It seems a bit
think you're
weird.
paying for the. I think you're paying for the extra row of faders. To be fair, I think that can
only.
It's got to be that.
And you've got to bear in mind that 2 centimeter faders are probably quite a unique part, in terms of how you source that kind of stuff. So I'm guessing. I mean, if I just let me see if I go back to I think I've got the shot of it. That's the thing that concerns me more than anything else, is the size of it. Because I mean, as with a lot of it, certainly with the Juno 106, which has slightly longer faders, obviously, in this boutique model, it's all about the minutiae of those kind of tiny little differences between the sounds, where you can find that sweet spot in the resonance that creates this sort of suddenly this weird kind of almost voice-like sound in the filter. The Juno 106 has all of that in there, but it is about, it's not just like whacking a fader up and pulling it down. It's about the increments between, and it's going to be very hard to create that level of specific kind of setting, I think, in a fader that's that short throw. I am assuming. We should add here, we are conjecturing hugely, because we don't know if this is true. We assume it is. We don't know if the specs are final. We don't know any of these things. But that's the thing that worries me a little bit, is the fact that the finesse of some of these sounds is going to be even okay. So you're not going to be able to get an exact replica of the Jupiter 8 performance. But, I can live without that, but I'm worried more that you can't find those little sweet spots in the fader when it's so small.
Can I ask a hypothetical question? So if they'd bought this in at 19 inches and with obviously slightly bigger fader, slightly bigger everything, if they'd bought it in at 8 voice, so in other words, if they'd made a 19-inch rack of this with bigger faders, 8 voice, the proper authentic polyphony,
like a System 1 rack, effectively.
No, the same kind of format. So a 3U rack, 19-inch, and with the right polyphony and with, say, portamento or whatever, or an authentic, whatever. And we still knew that it was going to be ACB, so we still knew it was going to be virtual, and they charged $550, $600.
So say $899 or something like that, yeah.
Something, yeah. Personally, I'd be there going, yeah, I'll have one.
Oh, that's interesting.
But
I think they're going to prove to be irresistible, though, when you see them for real and just, and actually get your hands on them.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be just kind of, I know it doesn't really.
I know it's bad.
No, we don't need, it's going to, we're going to just we're gonna want them. I just know they're just, just for
And
one.
there is,
Juno on your bedside table. Do you know what I mean? It could really.
Do you know what? Yes, there's all sorts of gags in there somewhere, isn't there? Yeah.
But I question the only thing I question is in that small form factor. Why did they bother putting those strips like the pitch bend, wherever they're going to be, on the side of each one of those modules? Surely it would be much better to either make them that size and spread the controls out a little bit bigger, have a bit more room for stuff, and then put a genuine Roland pitch bend mod on the side of the keyboard that they provided. Or better still, cut that whole section off so the units could be smaller, and then perhaps provide a 5-octave full-size keys enclosure that you could put like 4 of those in next to each other.
That's an interesting
thing. A little bit more of a compelling, all that amount of control right in front of you with like 24-note polyphony, or whatever is that, 24, 32, no, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Bad amount. 16-note polyphony with 4 different engines. And also, my only other thing is that I know you can polychain 2 of them, but seeing as they're software, essentially, wouldn't it have been great if you could buy all 3 and you could polychain and prioritize which one you wanted to have 12-note polyphony, so that you just use them all as extra DSP? But you can't do that. Yeah,
I don't know if you can or not. I'm not sure. That's a very good point. I don't know, Mark. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because I mean, the form factor is in. There's the. You were at NobCon, right, quite recently, and
yes,
your infamous Facebook picture of the refaces, which again another controversial kind of VA thing, and you got to play with them, right? So one thing I wanted to ask is, did your initial sort of not outrage, but skepticism dwindle because you had a chance to play with them, to feel what it was like to use them? Because certainly that was the way for me. I thought the CS was brilliant. In terms of musicality, not in all specifications, of course, but
yeah, it's funny. I thought it was skepticism too, but according to the internet, apparently I condemned them and whatever. But yeah, what happened with me with them is I thought it'd be hilarious to film me actually enjoying playing them and then leak that onto the internet. But no, I played the reface units, and all of my original concerns are intact. But I did have the experience that, Nick, you specifically said, they're kind of fun and they feel good and the sounds are nice. And I was like, well, okay. And I came away with that exact experience of those. They do feel good. They have a nice feel to them. The sounds are fun and interesting. And there's this novelty aspect. I really liked the CP unit because of what options were available for electric piano sounds. And I thought, yeah, that's cool. But the truth of the matter is, the biggest limitation for me was, again, the mini keys. And I'm not even anti-mini key. I'm anti, but I think they're wrong for polyphony. And here with this particular unit, the Rolands, they're doing that again. And certainly 4-note polyphony is probably a little bit easier. But I just think the mini keys are the wrong thing for this. And the form factor aspect of this, I mean, it seems like it's going to be even worse than the reface, where, I don't think, if you don't have any, it's like you were saying, if you don't have any resolution, you're not really, it's more kind of just, I'll change the sound a little instead of, I want to fine tune this with synthesis. And to have all of the functions available on these boutique units, and then have them just be a little tiny. I can't even believe how small this thing, what Ty was saying, how small this thing is. I just, it confuses me.
You know what's going to happen though? What's going to happen? We're going to see a band of 10-year-olds, like a Tangerine Dream style 10-year-olds, all playing, playing the boutique and playing the kind of, and just blowing us away and really getting in there. A little hand.
But I wonder again, and this is what I found with the DX really, because the reface DX is because there was less control on the surface. When I hooked up a box of knobs and started to tinker with the sounds, I was going, this is, it was much more rewarding as an experience. And I wonder if the same thing might happen with the Jupiter 8. If you just go, well, I've got the Jupiter 8. the JP08 rather, and I can't get on with the faders. I'll just hook up a bunch of faders which have further throw and, are easy for me to find that sweet spot, because I found with the reface, even though they're short and they're 128 steps, and yes, I can hear the stepping, I know all of this, you can still find really kind of quite wonderful points within that travel which really kind of get you somewhere. And that, I wonder if it's going to be the same experience with these, but it'll require external control. But bearing in mind, we're talking about very small units and making them affordable. So it's this notion of kind of thrusting them forward. Okay, here's some musical. If they are indeed musical and are really good fun and kind of get some sounds that people are just going, wow, this is amazing. Okay, maybe they require an external fader to get that precision. That might be a bit of a drag. I mean, and also we're looking at it from a bunch of sort of or in your case, or professional musicians who require very specific functionality to do the job, which is probably not where these are aimed at. Ty, you said you looked like you were about to.
I think the reality is exactly as Gaz said. If we watch this back in 6 months' time, or definitely within a year's time, I think everyone here, maybe not Mark, but everyone else on here is going to have them, or at least have one of them. It's going to happen because they are going to be the kind of thing that we're just going to look at and go, oh God, I hate this, I cannot bear this, and then walk away with them, because we will. To be fair, I have to say I come down really hard on the reface, because for me personally, the reface just doesn't work. I completely understand what you're saying about the CS, but I'm a big AN1X fan, which obviously is a
I have never played one, and I understand that has a lot.
And AN1X is the most underrated virtual analog synth out there. It's Robbie knows this. It's one of those synths that in all of my setup, I'm always there going, it's the blue plastic one. It's going to have to go. It's going to have to go. And every time I switch it on again, it's just like, it can't go anywhere. It's got to stay. It is fantastic. So I understand the CS love. I absolutely do. But there's something about the whole packaging with the reface thing that just is never going to win me over. And yet, I sit there with all the reviews. I've watched your review. I do all this, and I'm still sitting there going, well, maybe I could just. And I know I hate it. I hate everything about the concept of it. And I'm still thinking I could just get one. So I mean, I know for a fact that I can sit here and I can slag off these Roland Boutique things, but we all kind of know that when we actually sit down and mess with one, it's just another boy's toy that we're going to have. And if it is something that means that someone with, kind of starting out and whatever can get into, at least it's some kind of hardware synthesis, then it's not such a bad thing. That's it at the end of the day, because, we all started off with our synths that were monophonic or whatever, and we've all been there. And, think about it. If you were starting out and you were 16 and someone offered you just a fraction of a Jupiter 8, for that kind of money, we would have absolutely leapt at it. We wouldn't have given a monkeys that it was only 12 inches and the faders were, it was something that wasn't a computer at the end of the day, which is always a good thing. Get people out there using hardware rather than computers.
I suppose that's true. I mean, I'm just thinking.
Agreed.
I'm just thinking about that. What was that tiny sizer, which is sort of a modular thing, which is about the size of a and the faders on that have got to be absolutely tiny. But I suppose they're not. They're not limited by the resolution as well, and you can bring in control voltage and stuff. But I think your point about maybe because the System 1 rack, a Eurorack version would be a form factor that would work because it's bigger. It would fit in a Eurorack, and it would give you a little bit more resolution to it. But I mean, I think obviously there's got to be things about like the aspect ratio of the panel and the ability to make them look in the style of, that if you change those dimensions, it wouldn't, you'd have to scale the whole thing up rather than just make it a bit longer or whatever. So I suppose there must be some design aspects to it.
I mean, I would hope, and I think I've after playing the System 1 that Gaz had at his place for a while, and I really enjoyed playing it, and I thought that's a really great little synth, regardless of the fact that it's not analog. You can get a great range of sounds out of it. I would hope that Roland, and I'm sure they have learnt from the Jupiter 80 fiasco, shall we say, and if they're prepared to so kind of upfront, kind of make them out to be modern kind of instruments that have a real heritage to those original instruments, one would hope that they've really worked hard to make sure that they do have that sound to them.
Yeah, I would.
Well, that's the thing. I have weirdly, I have a friend on Facebook who works at Roland, and I kind of wasn't thinking about this when I recently posted my initial response to these units, which I think Nick probably knows was pretty gosh dang harsh. But he very graciously stepped up and said, and addressed me, instead of just going, F you, Mark. He was like, listen, and he listed off a lot of aspects about this unit, some that Ty just said, but he specifically talked about ACB, because I think I said something like, I made some sort of horrible statement like analog simulation is a myth or something like that. Anyway, it was a little bit extreme, admittedly. That's why my Facebook, I don't allow people to see what I say there. Anyway, but he came on and he talked about the sound, and he said, they employ ACB and they've really made an effort to duplicate a lot of the analog aspects, a lot of the functionality aspects of these original synthesizers. And I thought that was pretty impressive. I'm like, okay, at least, you're putting the effort in and not just saying, okay, we did stuff that would make it sound analog, which a lot of people say without being very specific about, well, what did you do? But he said that they really made an effort to address some of the functionality of these synthesizers through ACB in there.
Yeah.
And he also said that he suggested, I don't know if this is true, that he might lend me one to check out, which I think would be absolutely just the most bizarre thing if I did a demo of it. I mean, I'd probably break the internet. But I am really curious. I mean, what is it like to have one of these things? And how analog do they actually sound? Because I got to say, like with, I've had 3 JX3Ps. I love them. There's just something about the crazy things. I love them. But I have to say, of the sounds that make analog really important, the thing that made analog a desirable sound quality, the DCO synths of the early 80s from Roland do not evince that. They do have their own sounds, which are really desirable, but they don't have this, they don't drip with analog quality. And what this friend of mine said was, like, people couldn't tell the difference between a real Juno 106 and this unit. And I almost think that that's possible. But I think it's hopeful.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to know, because I've got a Juno 106. I love it. Gaz, you look keen?
I am keen because... so the experience I've been having on the sledge over this past week has been, just so much joy. And a lot of that is to do with how when you've got one knob per function, absolutely, there's no menu system at work here. So everything is as it is. On the sledge, there's a button called panel. Press that, what you see is what you get. There's just something just so lovely about it and intuitive when you actually play it, the way you interact with it. It's like every knob can be a performance control, let alone, trying to map macros. Just like I've been having joy for the first time with the key track control. Like the key track control it's become a thing of wonder and amazing. Sorry, I'm a bit late to the party on that one. But the point I'm saying is, if these devices, give people a taste of that absolute, what you see is what you get, every control as you move it. Now, obviously, if there's presets, that's going to confuse the issue then, isn't it? Because controls and the sound are going to be separate. But what I'm interested in is how easy is it to make those things like be the entire panel? Is there what's the manual is the Roland term? You don't have like a manual, but
there was on the that's a very good question. I don't know. I'm trying to remember if there's one on the Juno 106. Yes, hold on. Here it comes.
Yeah.
Look. There it is. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. It's in the corner there. Hold on, if I can get it in the...
Okay.
There. A manual button. So there's one there. I don't know whether there was. There is on the JP6. I don't know if there is on the Jupiter 8. See if I can... Let me see if I can resize this. I think there may be. Yes, look at that. Oh, there's one in the corner.
Excellent.
So,
okay.
There you go. Box ticked.
Good news. Okay. So that's... Yeah, brilliant.
Right, I suspect we have, as you know, I'm sure Roland would probably like, and everybody else. Nobody's got in touch with me and said you've just broken the terms of your NDA, but everything was on the internet beforehand. So just want to say.
Can I just make one
Yes.
last little quick point? I saw a lot of people griping on the internet about the fact that they use terms on their like VCO, etc., and that it's not technically that because it's not. It's all in software. But I mean, I think, okay, Marc's one of the protagonists. I would just argue that it's just from familiarity, isn't it? I mean, virtual instruments in software have had that terminology since they began, and no one's complained about that.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think
it's just terms that everybody understands as the kind of concepts we work within.
Yeah, maybe so. And I think from what we were saying about the fact that they may have learned something from the Jupiter 80. In fact, what they've done is they've created a trail from IRA and System 1 to here, where it's not just like suddenly here they are. There's nothing else been here before. This is what we're going to do now. If they'd just gone from JP80 to this, then yes, they would have probably been, they would have been. I don't know. There would have been a lot of trouble, I'm sure. So I think, that's fine. I mean, and we got to remember that us guys are probably not indicative of the bulk of the market for these things. So, we're
Totally.
We're
perhaps. Forward to them.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're safe. Right. So I think it's now time for us to do our competition and all of those things. So I'm just going to press the button, and it might even play the ad. Who knows? A message from our sponsor at some point. Ah, yes, of course. Breaktweaker, designed by BT and developed by iZotope. Breaktweaker is not just a drum machine. It's a drum sculpting and beat sequencing environment that blurs the line between rhythm and melody. You can give your beats evolving depth that gets better the longer they play. Use rhythmic slicing to drive everything from pitch melodic lines to sweeping rhythmic overtures. In fact, you don't have to use breaks in there. You can stick sort of slices and samples and phrases and all kinds of stuff in there, which is what a lot of people use this for as well. You get the best drum sample library in existence. This is them saying, of course. I'm sure it's very good. Anyway, curated by BT, iZotope and top producers today explore a new era of rhythmic possibilities with this forward-thinking and forward-sounding instrument. And if you want to get hold of Breaktweaker, as with all of the the iZotope stuff, you can go to izotope.com/Breaktweaker, and you can basically download a working copy of this and check it out for yourself. In fact, I think until September 30th, Breaktweaker is reduced from 249 to 149. So that's till September 30th. So if you do find that you're into it and you want to get hold of it, you can. So let's get on to the competition. Last week we asked you to tweet the hashtag Breaktweaker and micro edits to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. And we have a winner this week. And it's a chap called Joe McBride. And his Twitter handle is CJOMUK, so I'm guessing he might be in the UK. So at CJOMUK, you have won Breaktweaker, and the iZotope Fairy will be dropping it under your inbox as soon as you let me know your email address. If you can just get in touch, then you'll be able to get that. We've also got another competition this week because that's how they roll, as I said. So you can win a copy of Breaktweaker for yourself. What we want you to tweet this week, now this is a bit of a mouthful, is the hashtag rhythm synthesis. That's one word, and you've got to spell rhythm right because I very often don't, and I did check this before I put it in there. Rhythm synthesis and the hashtag Breaktweaker to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. It's on the screen now. You've got 140 characters, so do write some other stuff in there as well if you feel you've got additional stuff to add. They do read it, and we do read it too. So for those listening just purely the MP3 version of this, hashtag rhythm synthesis, one word, and the hashtag Breaktweaker to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. And we thank iZotope for their sponsorship of the show. Very much appreciated. Quickly, Marc, actually, before we move on, I know that you're running, or the Moog Foundation, for which you are heavily involved. Now look at this beautiful thing. This is the pristine 1970s classic Mini Moog, which is actually you can get a raffle ticket, which is closing again on the 30th of September. You can enter to win this very synthesizer. And Michelle, the head honcho at Moog Foundation, said, "Oh, you should talk to Marc about it because he's had a chance to play it, and it's been lovingly kind of restored, and it's a really thing of beauty, right?"
Definitely. I have this this terrible aspect of my job that whenever we do this, it's my job to check the synth out to make sure it's functioning. And we also always have it serviced by a very competent tech as well. But I got to play this, and it sounds great. It plays really well. I think the keys have somewhat recently been rebushed. It plays really well. It sounds great. It's all original. It's the early oscillator, and yeah, I was really happy to play it. I haven't had a chance to like do a demo of it, which I feel bad about, but it's definitely a fantastic, great sounding unit that I have really enjoyed playing. For a while, it was sitting next to my desk, and I have to admit that I had to every once in a while take a break from the burden of my work to enjoy the thing. And actually, when Norm Leet told me about how to get pulse width modulation on a Mini Moog, which is something I never knew, that's the synthesizer I tried it out to see if it actually worked, and it did. But yeah, it's a great unit, and it's worth it to
$20, I think. $20 to join the raffle. I think there are or 6 for 100. And basically, you should check. In fact, I think the raffle is you go to the moogfoundation.org, you can find it there. But there's a bit.ly link, which is bit.ly/Mini Moog Raffle 2015 with a capital M and a capital R. So that'll get you there as well, and so you can enter. That does look. Are there any exclusives? I might have to enter myself, because that is the woodwork's been restored, hasn't it? That looks absolutely beautiful. My God. Anyway, go to it. Go and do it. Yeah, we all want that. That's for sure.
How do you do pulse width on a Mini Moog?
Yeah, no, do tell.
Haha. Yes. The trick is, I have one right over here. The trick is on oscillator 3, you set it to the backwards ramp, and then oscillator 1 or 2, you set it to the forward ramp. And by virtue of those two waveforms being opposites of each other, they cause an effect that sounds surprisingly like pulse width modulation. And actually, by manipulating them, you get some sort of unique sounds that pulse width modulation doesn't do. But yeah, you just set oscillator 3 to its modulation sawtooth, and one of the other oscillators to the standard sawtooth, and it just happens.
Well, there we go. No one says you can't learn anything on this show, and for those of you lucky enough to have a Mini Moog, you can try that out for yourselves. Yeah, okay, right. Well, let's take a look at this. This is something also quite new and modern in many ways. This is the Sensel Morph, which is... I thought this was, when I first looked at it, it was an overlay for an iPad.
At Sensel, we're developing the next generation of input devices.
I'll let them explain.
We're trying to replace the archaic keyboard and mouse with an interface that's upgradable, it's customizable, and it really captures all the nuance and expression that our hands are capable of.
Our first product looks like a trackpad, but we've actually packed 20,000 sensor elements into this form factor. Each of these sensor elements can detect the full range of forces that human hands are capable of. That means that when you touch this device, we can tell not only where your fingers are, but also how hard each one is pressing. We're precise and accurate enough to
Let me fast forward it a bit and see.
Naturally in a new.
This thing actually, I know it looks like it could be just like a Wacom tablet, but the sensitivity, I mean, there's a guy who's using a brush on it, which is kind of pretty awesome. And then you can lay... This was something interesting for artists as well. There's a guy, he just basically put a piece of paper on it. That's what I'm looking for. No, what am I trying to do? Oh, I don't think I could do that because I've actually fast-forwarded the video, so that's probably not going to work. I wonder if I do that now. Hold on. One second. Here we go. No. Damn, I blew it. Ah! But I know that we see these things often. We've had all of these kind of various devices. What looks really interesting about this is you can put these little overlays on it, which give you these kind of I think we might have it in the I think I've got the Kickstarter page, so you can place, I think you can see them here, there's these little overlays that you put over them, which then give them sort of additional functionality, like a QWERTY keyboard. There we go. That's the thing I was looking for. So a QWERTY, some pads, a control kind of thing, a musical keyboard, that kind of stuff. I mean, we've seen this kind of thing before, which we just think, yeah, but the sensitivity of this, there's one shot in the video where this guy's using a brush and it picks it up. And I'm thinking if there's that level of sensitivity, I mean, people also say, yeah, well, it's just an iPad, just use that. But this actually looks, to me, quite interesting. I know, Gaz, you're a kind of fan of alternative input devices. Do you think this has got any legs? Because it's certainly on Kickstarter, they think so. They've raised over 400 grand and they were only looking for 60. But you never know whether that's just another marketing thing or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's intriguing. It is intriguing. I mean, I have got a room here full of devices that have intrigued me, but then
now are dusty.
sort of sit there not being used. I've got my my Cuneo here and the Leap Motion, those kind of things, and so yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, the idea of actually brushing and having like palettes of notes on there and just being able to sort of create, combine those kind of ideas would be outstanding. If you then, and especially if you could make that interact with your hardware, I really see that world being a beautiful link up. That would be amazing. If you had, for instance, maybe you selected 18 notes and those notes would be routed to one synthesizer or modular or something, and then another 18 notes and scattered them around, and then used a brush and then brushed around them. Stuff.
So it's a software and hardware thing. I don't know, Ty, are you big on kind of alternative controls? I mean, you're surrounded by keys, but have you got a Wacom, for instance? Because a lot of people use those, or trackpads. We've become.
Yeah, I'm like Gaz, really. I'm surrounded by all these toys that I think are going to change my world, and then they do for at least a couple of hours. And then
you realise
my world goes back to exactly as it was before I switched it on.
You're referring to the lemur you've got?
Say again?
You're referring to the lemur you've got?
I'm not possible. You. Yes, I have a lemur. Yes, thanks for that, Robbie. No, so I think the problem I have is I think in theory it looks fantastic, and I think it's yet another thing that I will buy and then try and find a use for. And I seem to fill my world in the studio with things that I buy and then find a use for, where it should be something that I really want and someone produces something that does that.
Right.
And I love the idea of actually having, having your own, you can design your own templates that go on top, your own surfaces. But I did notice that to have that option, I think you have to, tell me if I'm wrong, but you have to go in with $7,000 to get the option of they will make you your own personal, kind of thing to go on top. Other than that, no, you have to do whatever they supply. For you to make your own, you have to go in a lot higher level. And it's great, but again, we do have to kind of remember that we're at that period iPad-wise where we're going through that transition with the phone, where we've got the Force thing on the new iPhone, and we kind of all know that the next one after that generation of iPad will have that Force thing going on, and then by the time we get to the next generation of iPad Pro, we're then talking about a 13-inch version with Force. And I know it's not like it seems with this, that, as you say, the pressure sensitivity is a lot finer, but in terms of what in the studio we would use day to day, I think there's a lot of crossover. And I have to say, if I was going to go down buying one of the next generation iPads with all this in, or buying this, I'd probably wait for the iPad.
That's a fair point. I mean, in fact, this is supposed to be slated for release in June 2006, which is only 3 months before when they will announce the next generation iPad Pro, I suppose. I know, Mark, are you a kind of... Are you an alternative input kind of guy? I mean, we've got the modular stuff with, like what Tony and Rolando Make Noise do with the touch plates.
Mm-hmm.
There is a history of this thing in synthesis.
Oh, absolutely. It goes way back to even the beginning. Friedrich Trautwein did the Trautonium, had a ribbon controller that was totally unique. And but I have to say, I know I've said before that I'm a total Continuum fan, and I'm still saving up for one. But when I saw the video for this, and I saw that they had a keyboard overlay, I was like, well, that's kind of cool, but I'd rather just have it be the smooth surface. Because the first time I tried the Moog, I was like, you know what I would like is a really, really long iPad so that I could have like a full keyboard. And then in the video for this, it showed that they had
two together.
of them
Yeah, that's right.
with the keyboard overlay. And I'm like, that, but without that keyboard overlay, would be kind of a continuum sort of situation where it would sense pressure and also have, you know, basically anything that the continuum could do. And I have to admit, I was intrigued by that.
I think they're $249 certainly on the Kickstarter. Like I said, they've got to let me see, where is it? Yeah, 406,000. You know, that's a lot of cash there. No, Robbie, you know, you've got the Seaboard. You know, so you're obviously not averse to the alternative side of things. And I know that you did, or do you still use the Lemur? I mean, I remember. Did you have one?
Well, I had taken a piss of Ty, but I had a Lemur when it first came out, and I controlled the whole show from a Lemur. I controlled the whole band from a Lemur. I had ultimate power. I controlled everyone's in-ear mixes. I controlled the whole of the Ableton setup. I controlled everything, and it was a great device until Ableton wouldn't match up to the reliability of the Lemur, and it stopped in the middle of a gig, and nobody could hear anything, and even the audience couldn't hear anything. Anyway, I digress. No, I love the Lemur, and I built lots and lots of control surfaces for it. And
I mean, the iPad killed the Lemur, really, didn't it?
Yeah. As soon as the iPad was announced, I put my Lemur up for sale. Literally, the week it was announced, I put it up for sale. And I told Howard to put his up for sale, and then
a couple of years later,
we got the Lemur for the iPad, and I used that quite a bit as well for a while. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm like Ty, probably. I look at things like this and I think they've probably got a little bit of a jump on Apple, but ultimately we'll probably see that technology realised in a much more slick, mass market way with a bigger iPad. And I would probably rather put my money into a more general purpose thing like that than buying something exotically bespoke like that. Initially at this stage. I mean, it's different with something like the Seaboard because it feels like a proper musical instrument. But with like you said, with a lot of these controllers, you think, well, that's a great concept. What am I actually going to use it for in the real world, and how much effort is it going to be for me to implement that in my workflow? Am I going to spend a week setting something up that I'm not going to use?
Yeah, there is that.
You know, I think it's great people are pushing the boundaries, but I'll probably wait on that whole side of things.
Yeah,
I think the other.
Sorry, who was that? Gaz.
That was me. Sorry.
Oh, Ty.
No.
Sorry.
I was only going to say. I think the thing is, when it comes to controllers, I think controllers can be great as long as they feel different to another controller. And I think the problem I kind of have from this, from having seen it, is the fact that the texture that goes on the top of each one doesn't seem different enough from a touchscreen, if that makes sense. And it's, you know, controllers are great as long as there's some real physicality to them, that they feel like a different kind of controller. Whereas this is kind of, seems to me like it's kind of fallen halfway between. It's obviously not a touchscreen, but it has the kind of surface feel of a slightly raised rubbery touchscreen, but it's not proper knobs and proper pads. And I'm just looking at it thinking, do you know what, as pads to play, I mean, I hate using iPads to play on because it's just completely unnatural. I like playing pads, and this kind of seems like it's kind of like a touchscreen, but not a real pad, and so it falls in the middle for me.
Right. Yeah, that could be very true. Gaz, you look like you're about to jump in there as well?
Well, I think it was, you know, the reliance of the overlays, you know, seemed a bit strange for me with that thing. And, you know, what are those overlays? Are you able to make them? I just, you know, whereas a screen can just have infinite amount of overlays. Well,
yeah, I suppose so. That's very true. One thing. Sorry, were you still going?
Not for me.
No. One thing that did come out in the chat room, and it's gone past. I'm sorry, I didn't make a note of who said it, but Wacom tablets, you know, top end Wacom tablets, and now have incredible set. Because I mean, I used to use one briefly because because it was a good input device for certain things, or at least I thought it was going to be. I think I ended up selling it. But they have this a lot of. They've got 3-dimensional with pressure and all sorts of hypersensitivity as well, which really which might be worth looking at in terms of if you're looking for an alternative device, and you can buy those now because they do them from massive to little to all sorts of things. I don't know if anybody's been using those in their setups, but I know that they're very highly advanced these days.
Can I just, on a controller front of something a bit amusing, I've got a good friend of mine, a producer friend called Andy Ross, who's now moved to Australia. We were working on a project once, and he suddenly had this harebrained scheme. He said, wouldn't it be great if you could get like a big control joystick like you use for gaming and use that as your mouse? So he trooped down to PC World, and he got this massive stupid thing with all these buttons and everything on it. And he tried to use it like an input device. And it was absolutely useless because you just couldn't ever.
What a surprise!
Just flew off the screen everywhere. You can never find the mouse pointer or anything.
I could believe that. Yeah, I mean, I think I had very similar experience with the Wacom as well. But yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, I think I wanted to let's bring it into the world of what people actually do with all this stuff. And I found this thing yesterday. I think it came out via Ableton, and it just absolutely blew me away. This is a performer called Rachel Claudio, who is a fantastic vocalist. And the thing about this video, this is her working on a system. She's got a push there. There's an APC 40 that looks like, is that a little fatty in the corner? Some
Yes.
Dave Smith Instruments thing
Yeah.
down there. Not sure what that is. And there's a what's the one in the corner?
Sub-fatty.
Sub fatty there. And she's playing on, but when she starts to sing, it's like this sort of incredibly visceral kind of stuff is coming out of her, and she obviously and she's an amazing vocalist. But at the same time, she's operating as what is an immensely complicated setup, really, to do this in real time. Obviously, there's some of it's pre-prepared. But the sort of the juxtaposition between her kind of really feeling this and getting the whichever side of the brain it is going on, and then also what she's actually doing with the technology, it's really. I think there's it where it gets really. She plays this amazing bass line. Hold on, there she goes. She goes to this sub fat in a sec. And this just went crazy on Facebook. I only posted yesterday. And she can play a mean mono as well, by the sounds of things.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of her, and I just thought it was brilliant.
In an instant, torn fabric.
Great vote. Anyway, I won't play the whole thing because we'll probably get busted for it. Oh, I've got to stop that, haven't I? Otherwise, I will get busted for it. Isn't it great to see somebody using all this stuff to actually make brilliant things? I mean, that was really kind of made me feel... I can't stop listening to it. I occasionally get this thing where I get a track and I just can't... It was the same thing, I think, Alessandro Cortini, one of his tracks. I just could not stop listening to it. And this is doing the same thing to me. I don't know, Mark. Have you seen this yet, Mark? I thought it was just superb.
I watched it this morning, and I have to admit, I mean, I'm ashamed of my arrogant prejudice, but like when it started, I was like, oh, here we go. Why am I watching this? It's just another person triggering a thing. Someone's going to hate me for saying that. But then as you watch it progress, I was like completely daunted by her level of expertise with all of that technology, all the while performing. And it was super, super impressive. And I'm like, how did she remember all of the things? If I were to do that, I would have to practice that probably for months because I have a terrible memory for everything all at once, which is one of the reasons I usually just play with 2 keyboards and that's it, you know. But I was deeply impressed. I was blown away. It was really amazing.
Yeah, no, really impressive. Ty, what... I mean, you've got all this stuff here. I mean, when you're composing, are you focusing on a single thing at a time? Do you ever have to play this level of complexity actually as a performance?
Yeah, I have done occasionally when I've played with bands and things, but I haven't sang at the same time.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a common theme here, which I've seen similar things, kind of performance-wise, with people sat with their gear and done live vocal performances, and I have to say, the common theme seems to be they seem to be women that I've watched doing this. And I think the whole thing about women doing multitasking really rings true here because they can obviously keep their kind of brains going in different ways. I think the only thing I would say, first of all, vocalist, I have to say I don't think you can question the fact she is a great vocalist, and I'm with you. I actually really like the track. I think the only thing that is not that we're overemphasizing, but I think it's just a new way of thinking, which is what she's actually doing isn't that different from anyone that sits down and plays the piano and sings, or plays guitar and sings. The only difference is what she's honed, and what these new breed of performers are honing, is the fact that rather than sitting down with 88 notes, or kind of so many kind of whichever frets that they're playing, is that they actually practice kind of triggers and just switching between different modes and then playing a bass line. And it's not that different from actually sitting down and just playing. The only difference is that they've practiced key switching and triggering rather than playing these notes, this chord for this length of time and whatever. And I think the same way that, I, as a keyboard player, would practice and their chops and, kind of learn, I think it's a new breed of doing that, but using technology, which is fantastic. It's wonderful.
That's a really interesting idea. I mean, I suppose the thing is, it looks so much more. It's a bit like when I used to do a lot of live sound, and people would come up and go, "How do you know what all those knobs do?" And it's a sort of, it's a similar kind of thing that I'm looking at there, going, "Wow, all of those things you're really good at operating, not just the one thing, and you're singing as well, but singing." Not like you're thinking about something else at the same time. I don't know, Robbie. I mean, I guess, Robbie, you probably have to deal with this to a certain extent. I mean, I don't know if you sing live, do you, on the Howard Jones stuff? But
in the past, but not these days. But what I think is interesting, like Ty said, there's a breed of performers, and it does tend to be women who are kind of, you've got your Imogen Heap and your Kate Havanovic and people like this who seem to be great at grasping technology and almost building their own instrument out of lots of disparate bits of technology, so they can perform. Instrument. And it feels like an instrument as a whole. It feels like they've custom built their own environment to perform with. And it's very interesting how some people have that aptitude to be able to, give a really emotive performance, and also kind of subliminally just go into autopilot and do all that kind of technical stuff while they're doing that. And it's not a skill that a lot of people possess, I don't think. Certainly to sing as well. I thought it was great.
No, really impressive stuff. I know, Gaz. I mean, you try and do the you do the thing where you're performing with lots of separate pieces of equipment, the Volcas and what have you, which has a similar kind of thing. And you can sing too. I mean, how hard is it? I mean, I guess if you can do it, it's not hard. If you can't do it, it is hard or harder.
To do it in a way that's good and people will like it, that's hard. I was doing loads of stuff yesterday. I was having so much fun, but I mean, I think everybody who would hear it would say it was dog dirt, but that's the hard bit, I think, making it nice. Because maybe that's where women are better at. Maybe they're a little bit more conscientious about doing something a bit nicer. Like, blokes quite like all the really, when you start playing with synths and stuff. Not all blokes, absolutely not. This is a complete generalization. I apologize, but getting a bit more ugly with the stuff. I love all that ugly sounds and just going really masses of ugly sounds. And then that's where people maybe switch off.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but yes, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more of her. I did check her out. Her YouTube channel doesn't have a lot of this stuff. I think she's primarily using Facebook to get this stuff out. But I suspect there's one other video that I think she posted.
You can buy that as a single on iTunes.
Yeah, you can. She's got an album out, which is I think it's called. Oh gosh, hold on. No, I should have got that. But if you check her out, it's rachelclaudio.com, I think, is the place to go. And she's got some great stuff there. And I think that, it'd be great to see that level of skill rewarded with a decent level of remuneration.
Absolutely.
Because notoriety is easy. It's just turning it into money that's hard. as we will all, I'm sure, no doubt, testify. Mark, me and you haven't quite figured out how to fund the private yacht habit that I'm cultivating in my head.
No. My brother always says, "Okay, Mark, you've got famous. What about rich?" And I'm like, "I know. I thought they went together."
They used to. Well, I don't know if we've got time for this, but there was this last piece that I found, which was have I got this? I should actually. This does perhaps tie in with this one topic, which was a really interesting piece on BBC. Let's see if I can bring the page up quickly. It's a little kind of short documentary style piece called "The Pop Star and the Prophet," and I never heard of this before. This is a chap called hold on a second. He's called Jacques Attali. Wrote a book in the 70s that predicted the crisis of the crisis of proliferation. He wrote a book called Noise: The Political Economy of Music, and it's a really interesting theory about how the oversaturation of product, the availability of it, has led to this sort of devaluation of it. And he was interviewed by this artist called Sam York, who basically said, "What am I going to do now, because I've missed," and he spoke to various people, like the guys from Hot Chip, said if they'd been 4 years earlier, then they'd be rolling in cash from the level of success that they had. It was more. What's really interesting about this is his whole theory about the notion of, okay, music has always been used as a political motivator and a way of engendering lots of people to be able to do stuff and get recognised. And now, because it's now massively proliferated, this is going to move into other areas where stuff will become worthless, like because with 3D printers you'll be able to print yourself a teacup, or print yourself a notebook, or whatever it may be that you need to do. And then so that the what ultimately will only be valuable is time, which is kind of what we're seeing to a degree with the value of gigs and the here and now, where you go and you see something happen in front of you, and the time that you spent is the value to it. And it kind of blew my mind a little bit, because I didn't realise that this guy had written so completely on the subject. If you get to check it out, it's quite interesting. I don't know if anybody has anything to add to that, but it just really kind of...
Did you say print yourself a notebook?
Well, I don't know, whatever. Perhaps the wrong word.
A bit of trouble with that one.
A pencil, a pen, a plectrum. Insert something that perhaps isn't made of paper into that. Yes, you're right. I don't. Did any of this? I don't know if you, Mark. Did you get a chance to check this out? Have you sort of had It's a really interesting theory, don't you think?
It's kind of terrifying.
Yes, it's that too.
It reminded me of some things that I have said about consumer grade electronic music technology. And I keep on sort of saying, because everyone can do this now, and there's more and more products that anyone can use to make this style of music, what's going to happen? And then usually I'm accused of being anti-electronic music or something. But this is kind of like the same thing. It's like when there is so much of the possibility that everyone can have it all at once, then it sort of loses the connection,
Wow. I don't know what happened there, but it was like an emphasis. Was that a point? I agree. I mean,
it's just a thing I'm trying out. How'd it work?
But what he got in the book, he talks about how in the past, in the 9th century, Emperor Charlemagne imposed by force the practice of Gregorian chants. I'm quoting here, to force the cultural and political unity of his kingdom. So music was used as a very powerful enabler and a very powerful sort of. And it just, I'm going to have to get the book and check it out. I don't know, Ty, does this resonate with? I guess in your world it's slightly different, because the music you're producing is to order. So you already...
It is, but it's a changing world for me as well. It's a changing world for people who write for TV and film. It's very much a changing world. And it is all the whole cheapening of music. I mean, I've had this rant before. But, music is seen as... it's not seen in the same way it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 100 years ago. It's cheap. People don't expect to pay for it. Joe Public doesn't expect to pay. He wants to stream things or download or whatever, but he doesn't want to have to pay for it. He wants it for nothing. And the same mentality rings true in the industry, in that a lot of times directors or producers, they kind of want music, but, do they have to pay for it? Or if they do pay for it, the days of a young up and coming composer who could make a good living from getting a good break from day one are kind of long gone, really. You kind of you'll be expected to do things for next to nothing. And exactly like Marc was saying, with the technology-wise, it's exactly the same thing. I mean, it is unbelievably worrying. I mean, I have a real rant about the fact that, I've said this before, people look at GarageBand and they start ranting that GarageBand is not worth the money. It's worth a laugh. Go and look at the App Store and read reviews of GarageBand or some other pieces of software that are unbelievable, and they're charging £1.79 for it, and people are ranting saying, I can't believe I spent £1.79 on this piece of rubbish. You have to get real about these things, and technology is fantastic. Technology means that more people can do it, but what technology means is that people are doing it without quality control and still getting it out there. And that's, in a way, I think, why music is becoming cheaper. Because cheapened, because some of it out there is absolute trash. It's rubbish. And back in the day, this would never really have seen the light of day. Or if it did see the light of day, it would be an indie band putting out a single, a 45, that they made 200 copies of. And so 200 people would hear it, and that it would then die a death because it was rubbish. You'd then get the good bands who would come through and they would get a record contract and then go on to greatness and everyone would hear it. You don't have that. You can literally go from your bedroom writing something that lots of people can hear, but it doesn't mean that it's good. And I mean, that's my opinion.
No,
and
I totally agree. It is very interesting. I know, Robbie, did you get a chance to check this out? Because it just, as a theory, it's I'd never really thought about it. I mean, the crisis of proliferation is just because it's going to apply to any number of things other than music as well. But what's interesting about it, because you still have an emotional connection with music, yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? Like Ty was saying, as a musician, I remember like 10, 15 years ago, people were getting paid £10,000 plus for a sync of just a track they'd already done in a computer game, for instance. Early days, PlayStation 1, there was big money. Now you're lucky if you get $500 to get your your song synced in a game like, I don't know, one of those massive games that sell kind of 40, 50 million copies, way more than any album ever does. It's just because those people, they've got the pick of so many desperate people who want their music and things. And people, you either take the view of, oh, we're doing you a favour by having your track in it. It will open so many doors for you. Or, you just think some money's better than no money. And it is debilitating because, as somebody who works on other people's music but also working on my own, and I've been working for a long time, a couple of years on an album, spending a lot of time, unpaid time effectively because it's my own passion and love, I cringe at the idea that it will get out there and then just be available and nobody will buy it. Or everyone will just kind of, or they'll get it on their subscription.
Or they won't have to buy it, yeah.
They'll have it on the Apple, on their Apple subscription for their $9.99 a month, and that will mean 0.00000 pence for me. It's that side of it, I think, is depressing. However way you look at it, and it is, if you don't have a revenue from licensing your music or syncing your music, or the ability to go out and make good money touring, then that's quite bleak for a lot of people.
I guess there will be a change. I don't know. I mean, guys, you do a lot of live performance, but as well. So I mean, that's probably a bigger part of what you do than perhaps the other panelists. Do you think that have you done that consciously, or is that just because you love it?
I think my motivations are generally psychedelic in their intentions. So anything that happens is more
an
to
accident.
Do with, yeah. This. And back in the 90s, it was an amazing band. My band was just the best band around. It was amazing. But we had commercial opportunities that we just weren't interested in. We were just interested in this thing. I don't know. We never found it. We're still going. We're still looking for it. But, and the sort of the commerce side of things is just like it's a different thing. And it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because, like I was just mentioning yesterday, I was playing on a sledge, but I had different sequences and different bits and bobs going. Loving it, loving it, having so much fun. I mean, I stayed up stupidly late doing it, having oodles of fun, and there's no commercial intention there at all. It's just the thing of doing it, and the business side of it is
yeah. But I suppose the thing is, though, I mean, we've talked about this before, where those all night jams or whatever, where you're just kind of enjoying yourself, you're essentially flexing the muscles that you can use then in your day job, if your day job involves creativity or music or any of those things as well. So those things they're both important, because otherwise, if you only ever work paid for music, then it's a different relationship you have with it. I mean, and it happened to me to a degree in that when I was doing lots of mixes, I would only ever, and to some extent I suppose I still do, I only ever really kind of get into making music when there's a gig, and that's just something that I think was instilled in me, because that's all it was, day after day after day after day after day of sort of pouring this kind of whatever creativity I had in my head at the time out into other people's productions or whatever. And I don't know whether that's good or bad. I mean, but I think in many ways we were lucky that we even managed to earn a living back then, and now I'm glad. Well, I don't earn a living now either, really. So, but I suppose it doesn't really make any difference. But I still enjoy. Now I'm finding I make music just to enjoy it more than thinking about that side of it.
You're right, because I mean, Robbie knows. I mean, the last time I wrote a note of music for myself that wasn't commissioned was 1997. That was the last time I wrote a note of music just for me, that wasn't, for someone else. And it means that the way I view music is it's not tarnished. I still love my job and I still love every minute of the day doing it, but it has taken on a whole new persona. And I still dream of the day of just finding that, doing exactly what Robbie's been doing and writing for me and just doing what I want and sod everyone else. This is what I want to do. But finding time to do that, as we were saying, coming back to the original thing, the only thing that you can't really put a figure on is time. And that's the one thing that I absolutely severely lack. But, it's in a way you struggle to have it both ways. It's balancing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
But they are different things. Writing for myself is completely different, if I can remember what it's like. But, almost 20 years ago, it was different writing for myself than it is writing now, day to day, doing what I do. Different things completely.
Well, it seems like a bit of it's an interesting note to end on. But if you could check it out, it's basically, I don't know, it's still on the iPlayer. I don't know if outside of the UK whether you can get it. It's called The Pop Star and the Prophet, but the chap is called Jacques Attali. And the book is called Noise: The Political Economy of Music, and I think it's a really interesting read, and it's proved there's actually quite a lot of people that have quoted it, and he was actually a bit of he sold like some ludicrous amount. It was a sort of, I'll write this little book, put it out, and it sold some ludicrous amount, like 150,000 copies back in the 70s. So he was obviously onto something. So it's just I've never come across it before. But we can also say that obviously just looking at what Rachel Claudio's just done, there's unbridled joy, and there is a vehicle for this to get out there. So as we say, hopefully, she'll make some money and she'll be able to keep doing what she's doing and not, have to go and work elsewhere just because there's, she has to feed her kids or whatever it may be. Anyway,
it will change. It has to change. At the end of the day, we know that it can't carry on. It can't carry on like this. It has to change somehow. And I mean, to be fair, it's kind of almost exciting for us to be part of it in a way.
On the cusp.
It doesn't feel that way at the moment, but it will be exciting to be part of it.
I mean, one thing I'd like to say is a lot of people hate on things like, Kickstarter or Pledge Music or whatever, artists who are choosing to ask their fans to buy into helping them keep their careers going. And I actually view that as a great thing, because if you've got a group of people who really want to hear what you do, I don't think there's any problem in asking them. And when you look at, like people like Mozart and all the famous composers of hundreds of years ago, they all had people who were kind of like
patronage,
patronage, who said, we'll give you money to commission this opera or this thing. And I think that's a great visceral way for people to really communicate with their fans and to continue being able to do what they want to do. So, I think there are models, like we say, it's not all doom and gloom.
No, I would
well
totally
said.
agree. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Well said, Robbie. On that slightly more upbeat note, it's probably time to say goodbye. We've got to move on. So remember, before we go, I want you to remember that obviously iZotope are our show sponsors. So if you want to tweet out the hashtag Rhythm Synthesis and the hashtag Breaktweaker to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc., you will be entered, and you can win a chance for a chance to win iZotope Breaktweaker. And of course, don't forget, also check out the Mini Moog raffle competition, which ends at the end of the month. $20 could get you this very, very beautiful. I'm guessing it's open to people all over the world, right, Marc?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Well,
Yes.
I'm glad we cleared that up. So, yes. I want to say thank you very much to everybody. Also, in the chat rooms, I want to say to everybody in the chat rooms, which is even more fulsome. Excellent. That's what I like to see. So we'll just go around and say, Marc, Doty, thank you very much for joining us. It's great to have you on. We look forward to your creative output. What are you working on at the moment, synthesis-wise? That's
It is the Analog Solutions Nyborg. It's vintage sound. For now, I mean, I'm just astounded. I'm working on the demo right now. It's going to be amazing.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to that. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And Mr. Ty Unwin there, over there in his synth cave, which is getting more and more LED lit. I'm sure that was a different colour behind you. Actually, not long ago. Have you been fiddling with the?
Someone commented in the chat room about the LEDs.
There we go.
You can change the color of them, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's the only reason I bought it.
Excellent. Well, Ty, I'm sure you probably need to go back to your day job to help pay for that investment. But thank you so much for joining us, Ty. It's been a pleasure.
No, it's always a pleasure. It's great. Thank you.
And Mr. Gaz Williams, thank you also. You want to watch out because we've got a couple of things coming up for Gaz where he will be on screen soon. So thanks, Gaz. I hope you have a great week going forward.
Yeah, great. I'm gonna be sledging some more. I think I've got a carrying case tomorrow, so I'm gonna be around
on the road.
Yeah.
Excellent. And of course, Mr. Robbie Bronnimann, who's probably hard back. Are you mixing now? Are you getting on? Do you work in late at the moment, or?
No, we work quite respectable days. We start at 10 and finish at 8 at night.
Excellent. Well, so you've got what's that? A couple of hours left. You can probably get another mix or two done.
It's interesting because Simon's got a pair of Adams A8Xs. I've never used any other monitors other than my own, and I've got these little Dynaudio BM5 compacts that I brought with me. But I'm just reveling in having a pair of monitors I can turn up ridiculously loud. I've never experienced that. It's quite fun.
Excellent. And they got ribbon tweeters, haven't they? So they don't take your head off.
No, they're nice. Yeah, they're nice from that point of view. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for everybody for joining us. Remember, as I said, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be happy to have you, and you can get our latest stuff, one of which I've got the Modor NF1, which I've been programming some sounds up in, which is a very interesting synthesizer. So hopefully I'll have a review ready for that soon. Anyway, that's it for this week. Sonic Talk number 419. It is 419, yes. It's over. See you later. Bye-bye.
Do you